We continue our look this morning at what China does not want you to see. The United States says the superpower is reclaiming land in the South China Sea. Artificial islands under construction could become military bases. China has not granted CBS News access, but Seth Doan got as close as any Westerner might. And he is back in Beijing this morning. Seth, good morning.
What looks like a futuristic research hub floating in the middle of the ocean may actually be the most secretive military operation on Earth. Hidden deep in the South China Sea, Project Sea Dragon is a colossal man-made island, equipped with AI drones, railguns, and rumored genetic labs. China says it's for marine research, but satellite leaks, whistleblower reports, and growing international tension suggest something far more dangerous. Is this the beginning of a new era of warfare, or the blueprint for controlling the seas? Welcome to the floating city China doesn't want you to see. Unveiling Project Sea Dragon. At first glance, it looked like just another speck on the ocean, but satellite images tell a different story. Floating hundreds of kilometers off the Chinese coast, this massive platform spans the size of a city, and it's not on any official maps. Internally, it's known as Project Sea Dragon. To the public, China calls it a maritime environmental research facility, but intercepted communications say otherwise. Whistleblowers from inside the Chinese maritime sector describe something far more secretive. One leak states, "There are no scientists here, only uniforms and weapons." The public narrative is about marine ecology and sustainability, but the silence from the crew, the location, and the restricted communications all point toward a deeper military objective. What makes this more than just another secretive project is where it sits, smack in the middle of disputed waters in the South China Sea. This area is contested by countries like the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia. The placement isn't random, it's strategic, a bold move to claim presence without declaring conflict. One analyst told us, it's not a research lab, it's a chess move. And now the world is starting to notice. Defense experts across Asia have flagged the project, and nations like the US and Australia have raised eyebrows in recent security briefings. But so far, China remains tight-lipped. No press tours, no verification, just a floating fortress in international waters. As the satellite images pulled back and the global debate ramped up, another truth emerged. This wasn't just a secret station. It was a city. One that lived, moved, and possibly prepared for war. The deeper we looked, the clearer it became. Project Sea Dragon isn't just about control, it's about permanence in the open sea. Architectural marvel or military base? From the air, it looks like a futuristic marvel. Multi-tiered levels, towers, energy grids. A floating fortress designed like a city. Spanning several kilometers, Project Sea Dragon includes what seem to be roads, landing pads, and entire zones marked for storage, habitation, and transport. It's not temporary. It was built to last. Hidden in this complex design are signs of high-level military tech. We're talking solar-powered weapon arrays, electromagnetic rail systems, and drone launch pads camouflaged under the guise of infrastructure. One engineer familiar with military systems remarked, "This isn't R&D. These systems are combat-ready. It's all integrated into what appears, on the surface, to be a peaceful facility." More revealing than the weapons is the self-sufficiency. Power comes from solar and underwater turbines. There's desalination for fresh water. Food grown in vertical farms. It's designed to operate for months without needing the mainland. And it's a floating country, said one anonymous source. It doesn't need help, and that's what's scary. But the most clever part? It doesn't look like a base. Its design blurs the line between civilian and military. Hospitals, schools, apartments, all mixed in with command centers and surveillance towers. The goal isn't just to operate, it's to blend in. And that's exactly what makes it so difficult to challenge. While the world debates whether this is a layout, a base, or something in between, the real story lies inside. Behind those steel walls and shining windows, people live and work. Some by choice. Others, maybe not. To understand the true nature of Sea Dragon, we need to look at the lives on board the platform itself. Life aboard the floating city. It's built like a city, and it functions like one too. Luxury apartments, a school system, clinics, even a recreation center. On paper, it seems like a peaceful, self-contained community. Chinese state media has even shown brief clips of smiling children and happy families. But those images are controlled, and the truth might be far more unsettling. According to leaked documents, many workers on the platform aren't specialists or scientists. They're migrants from rural China, promised stable jobs and decent pay. What they find instead is a different world. Long shifts, restricted movement, and constant surveillance. One worker reportedly said, "Once you're on the platform, you don't leave unless they let you." Access to the floating city is highly restricted. No journalists, no third-party inspections, and no way to contact families from inside. People on board sign confidentiality agreements and have their devices monitored or removed. There are stories of people disappearing after asking too many questions, though none are officially confirmed. To maintain control, the platform uses a web of surveillance, cameras, motion sensors, biometric scanners. It's not just for safety, it's for control. As one defector explained, every hallway has eyes, every conversation has ears. Life here isn't lived freely. It's managed, tracked, and adjusted. But beyond the locked rooms and smiling propaganda lies something more chilling. Rumors of secret labs, experiments, and human enhancement are growing louder. If true, Project Sea Dragon isn't just building weapons, it might be creating them. What happens when science, secrecy, and military ambition all mix in one floating facility? Biotechnological experiments and super soldiers. Inside Project Sea Dragon, it's not just technology that's being tested, it's biology. Leaked files and intercepted memos suggest a shocking ambition to engineer amphibious soldiers, genetically modified for endurance, adaptability, and survival in extreme environments. They call it Project Deep Skin. One scientist described it as the next step in military evolution, blending man with the ocean. The documents go further. Researchers are allegedly experimenting with tardigrade DNA, using genes from these nearly indestructible microscopic creatures to increase resistance to radiation, dehydration, and even vacuum-level pressure. It's not science fiction anymore, warned a bioethics advisor. They're pushing the limits of what a human body can survive. These gene-edited test subjects may already be undergoing training on the far edges of the platform. But it doesn't stop at biology. AI is being integrated directly into human neural systems. Brain-computer interfaces, cognitive enhancers, and behavioral prediction models are being tested to create AI-assisted soldiers, capable of responding faster than human reflexes allow. This fusion of DNA and AI isn't just experimental, it's tactical and completely off the global radar. Ethics? Barely discussed. Oversight? Non-existent. "We're dealing with a floating lab where the rules don't apply," said one European intelligence officer. The lack of transparency and refusal to acknowledge these experiments are drawing quiet but growing concern from scientists and diplomats alike. What kind of future is being built, and who will control it? While the human body is being redesigned in silence, the sea surrounding Project Sea Dragon is paying a heavy price. Beneath its surface, coral reefs are crumbling, and toxic waste seeps into ecosystems that have thrived for centuries. The platform's scientific ambitions may stretch upward, but their environmental impact is dragging the region's fragile ecosystems straight down. Environmental impact and legal implications. At the heart of the South China Sea lies one of the planet's most vibrant marine ecosystems, or at least, it used to. Since construction began on Project Sea Dragon, local marine biologists have recorded a sharp drop in coral reef health, fish migration, and overall biodiversity. The reason? Heavy construction, dredging, and unregulated underwater drilling. Satellite imagery has captured chemical runoff spreading from the base into surrounding waters. "You can literally see the discoloration from space," one analyst said. Toxic materials used in the floating platform's operations appear to be discharged straight into the ocean. And with no third-party environmental inspections, no one knows exactly what chemicals are involved or how dangerous they are. Experts believe the project violates several sections of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, particularly those relating to marine protection and territorial activity. But enforcing these laws in international waters is complicated. China has repeatedly denied wrongdoing, and no international body has successfully gained access to the platform to verify claims. Meanwhile, global environmental groups are sounding alarms. This isn't just a military threat, it's an ecological one, said a Greenpeace marine specialist. The destruction is slow, silent, and, if left unchecked, irreversible. Yet the damage continues, under layers of secrecy and silence from those who built it. While the environment suffers quietly, the platform itself grows bolder. Away from laws, away from borders, Sea Dragon is now being used for something even more alarming, weapons testing. And without international oversight, the South China Sea has become an unregulated laboratory for the most advanced and dangerous technology humanity has ever created. Strategic military advantages. Project Sea Dragon's location isn't just controversial, it's tactically brilliant. Floating in disputed waters gives China something priceless, a testing ground beyond international jurisdiction. Here, weapons can be tested, data can be collected, and exercises can be run without diplomatic consequences. As one U.S. naval officer put it, they've created a loophole in plain sight. The platform is equipped with a web of surveillance systems, satellites, deep-sea sensors, and radar towers that monitor everything from ship movements to underwater drone traffic across thousands of square kilometers. Neighboring countries like Vietnam and the Philippines now fear they're constantly being watched. And they might be right. One leaked military brief called Sea Dragon a listening post in the ocean. It doesn't just sit still either. The platform is partially mobile. Massive propulsion units can shift its position to new hotspots when needed, allowing for rapid deployment in response to international events or disputes. It's a new type of power projection, different from aircraft carriers, but just as intimidating. It's like a floating embassy, base, and missile silo all in one, a regional analyst explained. And above all, the message is clear: don't get too close. The sheer presence of Project Sea Dragon signals China's readiness to enforce territorial claims with cutting-edge force. It's not just about defense, it's about dominance. And it's working. The balance of power in the Pacific is shifting. And it's happening one wave at a time. With its weapons, labs, and eyes on the ocean, Sea Dragon isn't just a platform, it's a symbol. But symbols don't exist in isolation. The world is watching, reacting, and recalibrating. Tensions are growing and alliances are forming. What comes next isn't just about China's ambitions. It's about how the world chooses to respond. International responses and tensions. From the moment satellite images of Project Sea Dragon went public, alarm bells started ringing across Southeast Asia. Countries like the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia immediately condemned its presence, calling it a violation of regional sovereignty. Manila's defense minister said bluntly, "This is not a research platform, it's an occupation." Across the Pacific, the United States took notice too. The U.S. Navy's Pacific Command began conducting freedom of navigation operations near the platform, signaling a refusal to recognize any new maritime claims. Surveillance aircraft have flown missions nearby, and Navy destroyers have moved closer. "We're not going to let anyone redraw the map without consequences," stated a U.S. naval spokesperson. But China isn't backing down. In press briefings, officials maintain that Project Sea Dragon is peaceful, legal, and sovereign. They accuse Western nations of trying to contain China's progress. Meanwhile, diplomatic back channels are heating up, with Japan, Australia, and India quietly aligning with ASEAN nations in response to the growing pressure. The global call for transparency is getting louder. The United Nations, the International Maritime Organization, and multiple watchdog groups have demanded access to the platform. So far, silence. This is not just a regional issue, said a UN official. It's a test of how far unchecked power can go in international waters. As tensions rise and warships circle, it's clear that Sea Dragon didn't appear overnight. To understand how we got here, we need to look back. China's history of strategic construction, military obfuscation, and dual-purpose infrastructure reveals a pattern. This floating city isn't an exception. It's part of a larger playbook that's been unfolding for years. Historical context and precedents. Project Sea Dragon is just the latest in a long line of territorial maneuvers by China. For years, the country has built artificial islands across the South China Sea, constructing airstrips, radars, and military outposts on reefs once too shallow to stand on. Sea Dragon is different only in form. The function? That's been clear from the start. In official doctrine, China promotes military-civil fusion, a strategy that blends civilian-looking projects with military capabilities. Hospitals that double as triage centers. Research labs that feed military intelligence. This isn't conspiracy, it's policy. The line between civil and defense is intentionally blurred, said one former intelligence officer. It gives them deniability, and it works. In the past, similar platforms and islands were introduced under environmental or commercial labels. But slowly, radar towers rose, missile systems were installed. By the time the international community responded, the transformation was already complete. It's like building a base in slow motion, explained a Southeast Asian defense analyst. And history shows a consistent pattern of denial, delay, and deployment. Each time the world demands answers, the response is the same: peaceful intentions. Then the construction continues. Sea Dragon may seem like a shocking new development, but in reality, it's just the next phase of a well-practiced strategy. Behind every steel wall and wave-piercing hull lies another layer of power. The tech powering Sea Dragon isn't just advanced, it's revolutionary. From directed energy weapons to AI-guided drones, this floating fortress may be the most sophisticated prototype of future warfare. Let's peel back the shell and look at the machines that make Sea Dragon unlike anything else on water. Technological innovations and capabilities. This isn't your typical naval base. Project Sea Dragon is powered by cutting-edge technology that rivals, and in some cases surpasses, anything seen on modern warships. One of the most talked about additions? Directed energy weapons. High-powered lasers capable of disabling incoming drones and missiles. A leaked communique described it as effective within 12 kilometers, silent, accurate, and invisible. Even more jaw-dropping is the presence of electromagnetic rail systems. These futuristic launchers use magnetic fields instead of gunpowder to fire projectiles at hypersonic speeds. That means stealth, speed, and power, all without traditional detection signatures. Naval engineers have long theorized this tech, but Sea Dragon appears to have made it real. It's no longer science fiction, one U.S. admiral noted. In the skies above and waters below, autonomous drones now patrol for intruders. These AI-powered machines aren't just passive cameras. They can track, follow, and respond to potential threats without human input. A small fleet of aerial and underwater drones reportedly makes Sea Dragon nearly impossible to approach undetected. And to top it all off, the platform uses military-grade cybersecurity systems to protect against digital attacks. Quantum encryption, decentralized networks, and autonomous threat detection make this base a digital fortress. It's not just hard to break in, said one cybersecurity expert. It's hard to even see what's inside. Technology may be the muscle of Sea Dragon, but its heart lies in something far more human. Whispers of forced labor, political detainment, and total surveillance paint a much darker picture. Behind the tech, the platform may be hiding serious human rights violations, and the world is starting to demand answers. Human rights and ethical dilemmas. Behind the steel doors of Project Sea Dragon lies a darker reality, one that can't be captured by satellites. Reports from defectors and intercepted files point to forced labor on the platform. Workers, mostly poor migrants from inland China, are allegedly kept under strict rules, denied contact with family, and paid far less than promised. One leaked testimony reads, "We were told it was a research job, but they took our phones. We work 14 hours. We don't ask questions." Many have no way off the platform. Travel documents are confiscated and movement is restricted between zones. Some laborers even refer to their section of the platform as the cage. There are also claims, still unverified, of political prisoners being held in secure zones. These individuals are believed to be activists, whistleblowers, or anyone deemed a threat to state security. Some may be used in human experiments related to endurance and neural tech testing. It's hard to prove, but even harder to ignore. Operating in international waters gives Sea Dragon a dangerous legal loophole. No single nation can enforce human rights laws here. Global advocacy groups are now pushing for independent investigations. Amnesty International released a statement reading, "Silence from China is complicity. The world has a right to know what's happening offshore. But power isn't just about weapons or secrecy, it's also about money. Sea Dragon isn't only a symbol of control, it's a tool of economic domination. Behind its surveillance and steel lies a calculated plan to reshape trade, resource access, and technological leadership in one of the most contested and valuable regions on Earth. Economic implications and motivations. The South China Sea is more than just a strategic location. It's a gold mine. Beneath its waters lie vast reserves of oil, natural gas, and rare earth minerals. Controlling a floating city in this area allows China to explore and extract these resources without depending on ports or mainland logistics. It's about energy independence, one analyst noted. Equally important are the shipping lanes. Over 1/3 of global trade passes through this region. With Sea Dragon positioned nearby, China gains not just visibility, but influence over global commerce. The ability to monitor, delay, or even disrupt trade routes gives it a massive economic edge over competitors and rivals. The project also serves as a tech demonstration. By showcasing futuristic weapons, AI systems, and energy infrastructure, China can attract partnerships and investments from countries seeking cutting-edge alliances. This platform isn't just a threat, said an EU trade consultant. It's also a showroom. Domestically, Sea Dragon feeds into national pride. Chinese media, when allowed to mention it, describes it as a symbol of innovation and independence. It plays into a larger narrative, China as a self-sufficient, world-leading superpower. For citizens back home, it's proof that their country can build what others only imagine. But economic gains rarely come without global consequences. As Sea Dragon grows, so do the risks, not just of regional disputes, but of a complete shift in global strategy. What happens when floating bases become common? When rules no longer apply offshore? The platform may be the first, but it won't be the last. Potential global repercussions. Sea Dragon might be a prototype, but it's also a blueprint. Military analysts warn it could trigger an arms race, with other nations rushing to build their own floating platforms. Already, unconfirmed reports suggest that countries like Russia and the US are studying similar designs. What was once science fiction is now becoming military standard. This shift forces a reevaluation of naval strategy. Aircraft carriers and island bases may become outdated compared to mobile, self-sustaining platforms. Experts say navies will need to rethink how wars are fought on the ocean, and more importantly, how peace is maintained. "You're not just defending coastlines anymore," said a retired admiral. "You're defending the sea itself." And then there's the legal chaos. Existing maritime laws weren't built for floating cities. There's no clear framework for ownership, accountability, or environmental responsibility. International law must evolve, or risk becoming irrelevant. "We're living in a time when technology outpaces regulation," said a maritime lawyer, and that's dangerous. Worst of all is the threat of conflict by miscalculation. One drone too close, one warning ignored, one signal misunderstood. With tensions already high, a single mistake around Sea Dragon could trigger confrontation between global powers. The risk isn't science fiction, it's tomorrow's headline waiting to happen. So what now? The world has seen the satellite images, heard the testimonies, traced the patterns. Sea Dragon is no longer a secret, it's a challenge. Not just to the balance of power, but to international law, ethics, in the future of ocean governance. The final question is, will the world act or look away? Future outlook. The global community stands at a crossroad. Project Sea Dragon isn't just China's project, it's the world's wake-up call. Transparency is no longer optional. Nations must demand clear explanations. independent inspections, and binding commitments from countries building in disputed waters. Accountability begins with visibility, said a UN legal expert. We need eyes inside. At the same time, international law needs an update. The last major maritime agreements were made in a world without floating AI cities. It's time for global policymakers to rewrite the rules, ensuring that new tech doesn't slip through old loopholes. Otherwise, the oceans could become the Wild West of modern warfare. This isn't a one-country issue. The answer lies in collaborative monitoring, with nations, even rivals, coming together to oversee ungoverned spaces like the South China Sea. Multinational drone networks, joint patrols, and third-party verification could be part of a new kind of ocean diplomacy. And finally, the world needs to stay informed. Public pressure works. Awareness drives accountability. Documentaries, journalism, education, all play a role in building global resistance to unchecked power. As one protester outside the UN building said, "If we don't speak for the sea, who will?" As Project Sea Dragon drifts silently through international waters, it raises one deafening question. What else is happening beyond the world's view? With no transparency, no oversight, and no borders, this isn't just about one platform. It's about a dangerous new frontier, a place where power floats free and laws sink. The oceans are changing, the rules are breaking, and the world needs to decide, do we watch from the shore or start asking the questions that could change everything? Subscribe for more deep dives into the world's hidden power structures. This story is far from over.